Hey everyone, Jeremy here. It's Friday night and we're going to create some art. It's going to be awesome. I see there's a couple people in the chat already. Hey Robert, hey Adel, or Ada, sorry, not Adel. Adel likes art. Um, Adel likes art, actually makes some art too. So if you guys get a chance, go check out their channel. Kids in here, it's Friday and we're just going to hang out and have some fun. I've taken to kind of writing in the title, like when I figure out what I'm going to draw, just updating the title. So, like, if you guys happened upon this page, like, I don't know, in the last half hour or whatever, it should say what we're doing. We're going to draw a horse. And the reason why is, I've been doing a lot of the white pencil on black paper pictures. And I was looking through all the ones I've got. You can see some of them on the wall behind over here. Yeah, so I've got a couple of different animals on the black paper. They're kind of hard to see on camera, but I realized I don't have any horses, and that's a real shame because I live in horse country. I think I've mentioned that before. I live in central Kentucky, and we're all about horses around here. So I figured to round out my collection, and then maybe I'll move on to something else. I'm going to do a white pencil drawing of a horse on black paper. So if that's cool with you guys, hang out with me. We can chat and have a good time. If that's not your thing, well, come back tomorrow. I'll do something else. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and switch to the top-down view. So yeah, we're starting with the black paper. There's only a couple of supplies. I mentioned this before. I've got like a white colored pencil that does the bulk of the work. I've got like a little white gel pen for like super highlights. I tried to use that rarely. And then I've got like a black pen for any kind of touch-ups. And then like an eraser. Even though I don't do a lot of erasing, this is in case I really screw up. And I've got my bourbon, which is essential on Friday nights. Uh, so one thing that's a little bit different here is you might notice they're like really hard to see, but I've got a couple of little dots on the paper, and I wanted to talk about that real quick. So like when drawing a horse, I've got a tendency to maybe draw the horses are hard to draw. They're notoriously hard to draw for any artist. Anybody will tell you that. And it's because they have this weird face where they have this long, like why the long face, right? They have this really long snout, and I've drawn quite a few horse pictures, and I've noticed that some of them I draw them to the snout, the nose, whatever you want to call it, a little too short or a little bit too long. So I wanted to talk about a technique that I sometimes use to kind of like help with the proportions. So I do have a reference picture of a horse, but let's not focus on that too much because I'm going to change it up a bit. But I have a reference picture and I know what the sizes of those are in comparison to my page. So I took a moment to actually use a ruler and figure out key places on the horse's face. So while you don't see them on the page yet, each of these dots mark off like maybe where the mouth might be, or maybe where the ear might be. So I know where it might be on the page without having to just kind of screw like metal through it. There you go. I almost said screw it up. I don't want to jinx myself. Um, but a lot of times I just draw freehand, and I still want to keep with that. I want to keep where I'm drawing freehand so that I can progress as an artist and not just like map it all out. But having like little dots like this, and if you are new to drawing, or you're just looking for another way to kind of keep your proportions correct, I do recommend this. Just mark off a couple of little like key waypoints and stuff to help yourself out. I think it'll help in the drawing process. So, for example, I want to start on the eyeball because I'm kind of curious about where the how the eye is going to look on this horse picture, but I know where I want to start it. I want to start it right around here. So I have this little dot here that I'm going to build off of, and I'm just going to get started. Feel free to chat with me. Like I love chatting on Friday nights. I got a couple of things I want to talk about with you guys. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have seen any of the recent Marvel stuff, but I'm all caught up on those. In particular, I think Loki, the last episode of Loki was really good. So if any of you guys have seen the last episode of Loki, I don't want to throw out any spoilers, and I hope that nobody else does as well. But if you haven't seen it, I can highly recommend it. I think it's some of the best Marvel stuff that they put out, um, like overall, but certainly since Endgame. It's really good. Like I hope that people get a chance to watch this second season of Loki all the way through, but in particular, the last two episodes were really good. It's really good science fiction. Um, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Loki deals with like time travel, like Loki the television show, and they really lean into that this season, and it's really good. It's really good. And then the other thing I saw just today, in fact, I went out and caught a matinee. I caught the new Marvels movie, and if anybody wants to chat about that, happy to. But yeah, the thing about the Marvels movie is it's getting some flack, like some criticism, and I think some of that's deserved. But then I also think it's overblown. Like even the criticism that it deserves, like there's some story elements that might need some work. Like it's not the best Marvel film, but it's a lot of fun, and I feel like it's being unfairly criticized. Not really unfairly criticized, but they're kind of like overstating the criticisms, in my opinion. But I don't know if I should recommend the movie because it's probably not for everybody. Like, I don't think anybody's going to watch the Marvels and say, "Oh, this is my favorite Marvel movie." But short of that, I can say that I had a good time. It was a lot of fun, and there's some flurkins in it. And if you don't know what flurkins are, those are the cats that have the tentacles that come out of their mouth. That makes it a good time by itself. So it was pretty good. Yeah, Deadpool 3. I am really looking forward to Deadpool 3 coming out, but um I don't know when that actually releases. And I don't want to go so far as to say whether or not that's mentioned in um the Marvel's movie. Uh okay, I can actually probably say I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Deadpool's not mentioned in that movie. Um so I do think we have a little bit of a wait. Hey Axel T. Hey okay Larry. Hey Rum Dog. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your Friday with me. Hopefully you guys had a good week. Do I think Deadpool 3 will be PG-13? That's a great question. I hope not. And I don't mean that because like I hope that Deadpool is just like completely like inappropriate for all audiences. I the original two um which was under Fox, so it you know, it's hard to say what Disney will do with it, but those were rated R and deservedly so. I mean, some parts of it were pretty raunchy. Um, but also, I think we're living in a different time, you know, like where um, maybe some of those ratings need to be relooked at because, like, I mean, kids aren't as sheltered as they used to be. So, like, when something's like rated like R, it's supposed to be for like audiences over the age of 17. I guarantee you by the time somebody reaches the age of 17, they've already heard all those jokes in a Deadpool movie. But I don't know. I'm not in charge of those things, so who am I to say? But I do think that maybe some of those things need to be looked at again. So this is basically where I want the ear to go. I'm still kind of keeping it light because I am sort of figuring this out as I go along. But I think the eyeball is going to be about yay big. Do I consider Deadpool? Hey, Ada. Um, Oh, I saw you earlier. I already said hi to you. Do I think that Deadpool is considered X-Men? I don't think so. He might join up with the X-Men sometimes, like he did in the second movie, and I think in the comic books he works with X-Men sometimes. But I wouldn't consider him like he's a mutant, obviously, but he's not. Um, I don't think he's part of that team. I think he's part of a different team, actually, and I forget the name of it. I don't want to say X Factor, but he's on a different team, I think. So I would not consider him an X-Men in terms of the team. He is a mutant, but have you ever heard of the Venom movies? If you're not if you don't mean Venom, then no, I have not. Like your new profile. Oh, you got a tiny little picture there. I'll have to check that out later. So under the eye, I'm just going to kind of scribble in some light here to represent the the basic shape of the horse coming down. Now, horses do have a couple of like central features, like there is this ridge here that almost extends down from the eye itself. It's a little bit over though. So I'm going to move it over here. And it extends down from across the eye all the way down. I don't know how much of this is going to be lost in shadow and how much isn't. Let me go ahead and kind of pencil in what I think might be the nose here. It's looking awesome. I just started it. That's a great compliment. If you mean the cat picture, I already did the cat picture earlier. I just put it up as kind of like to let myself know. Oh, that's another tip. So, like, if you're trying to do a series of pictures, I mean, I don't know if this is a tip, it's just what I'm doing. If you're doing a series of pictures and you kind of want them all to be in the same style, I think that cat picture really represents the style that I'm going for in these pictures to create this series. So I'll often put pictures I've already done kind of on my desk or like within viewing, just so that I can kind of look at it every now and then and just kind of remember. I don't think it's a problem because I kind of draw consistently anyway in this style. I kind of just do my thing. Um, but I think it's helpful if you're really trying to like work on your style to kind of have like examples of it laying around so that you can kind of refer to it and just make sure that you're being consistent the way you do it. Oh yeah, I've seen the Venom movie with Tom Hardy. Yeah, I've seen that. I'm a fan of the character. Like I remember when the character first was introduced in the comic books, like it's just like this this black suit that Peter Parker wore. It was just his new suit. It wasn't even like an intelligent alien creature or anything like that. I've always been a fan of Venom. Um, I hope they make more of those movies. I hope Sony continues to make Marvel movies. On Netflix right now is the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Love it, especially as an artist. I love that series. I love the first one. I love the second one. It's just, I mean, I can watch that a million times. Just the links they go through to make that like super cool. Um, just like so, Spider-Gwen is in it, or was it Ghost Spider? I think it calls herself. I don't know, but just a different style of art between when they're talking about Miles Morales' story and then they go into Spider-Gwen's side. They change up the art style to represent Gwen Stacy, and I love that. Whoever came up with the idea to make those movies, they deserve awards. I'm sure they got awards for it. It's so good, but yeah, they earned it. It's so good. Hey, yeah, it is Christmas coming up. You think Spider-Man will be in Venom 3? I don't know. Maybe. It'd be kind of cool if they did introduce Spider-Man. They haven't really been using Spider-Man outside of his Spider-Man movies that much, like recently. Like Sony hasn't really, which is odd. Like, for example, crap, what's his name? Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They haven't really been using him in other movies, which I think is kind of odd because I think they share that intellectual property rights. Like they have just as much right to use them as Marvel does. Maybe, I don't know. So as you can see, I'm kind of keeping it light just to get some of the light in here, just so I can kind of flesh out the horse's head and figure out where everything is. It's kind of like my process I use for everything, except it's really difficult because a horse's head is kind of like unfamiliar shapes. I'm gonna go ahead and move this over here so that's not in the way. I do like my bourbon. I know that some of you guys are probably too young to drink, so I apologize, but I enjoy my bourbon on Friday nights. Yeah, so Spider-Man does well, yeah. So it's all part of that it's all part of the Marvel universe. So Spider-Man definitely exists in the Venom universe. They've had posters where he's like a wanted criminal for some reason. Um, I don't know if that's because of things he did in the MCU or or what, but yeah, he's in those movies somewhere, whether he's actually on screen or not. He's in that universe. I don't know if they clearly delineated the Sony universe from the MCU or not, or if they just expect it all to be the same universe. Oh, yeah. So, Ada, I assume you're talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse. Ah, it's just amazing. The music, the art. I've said before, and I really believe it. Like you can take a screen capture of like any frame in that movie, blow it up big, and hang it up on your wall is like a masterpiece. It's beautiful, and it's on Netflix now if anybody has Netflix. But if you haven't seen it, let me put it this way. My folks are up there in age and they saw it and they appreciate it. So it's for everybody. So like even if you're not into like comic books so much, I think you might enjoy it. Everybody likes Spider-Man. Who doesn't like Spider-Man? If you don't like Spider-Man, let me try to convince you to like Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Batman, every it will always find an audience. Who's my least favorite MCU character? Oh, that's tough because there's um, a lot of little small characters. So I'd have to think about that for a bit. If you mean like MCU characters that got like a whole movie for them and stuff, um, like if you're talking about like one of the Avengers or something like that, it's still kind of tough. Because like they usually end up fleshing the characters out. Oh, okay, in the MCU, I can say that what they did with um what's his name, Quicksilver. I feel like they could have done better with him, and I understand why because like Fox Studio did it better. Um, but yeah, like they only had him in Age of Ultron, and he well, I don't want to spoil it by saying he died, but he died, and they never used him again. I think that that was a waste because um, Wanda, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, they kind of come as a pair. Like there's so many stories where they're both in it and stuff. I feel like having one without the other is a shame. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's my least favorite character. Let's see. What'd you think of Tony and Peter's father and son relationship? I liked it. I liked it because they skipped over the whole Uncle Ben part in the MCU, so they kind of had to have some sort of um, replacement to help with Peter Parker's growth. Because the story of Peter Parker is he's not like an out of the box superhero. He doesn't come fully realized. He's still working on being a superhero. That's like part of the whole thing with Spider-Man. So if you don't include Uncle Ben as kind of like his moral compass, you have to have somebody. So like in later movies, they kind of replaced Uncle Ben with Aunt May, but I like that in the movies they had kind of Tony be his mentor, and I think that fits with the comics as well. I'm not an expert on the comics, but my understanding is that in Ultimate Spider-Man, Iron Man was kind of like an influence on him. So I think that's comic book accurate, and I like what they did with it in the movie. Do I think Deadpool will interact? Oh man, I hope so. That would be awesome. I think in the comics they do quite frequently, so that would be cool. I think just thinking it out, there are some people I would love to see Spider-Man interact with. So like Spider-Man, he's a super powerful character in the MCU and in the comics and stuff, but he's really like a street level um, hero. So like he's very much all about like New York and protecting New York on a street level, much the same as people like Daredevil, who is one oh that's one of my favorite characters. I love Daredevil, by the way. Um, so like these are all like street level heroes and stuff, and they kind of interact with each other a lot in the comics, from what I've seen. So I would like to see, and they kind of had Daredevil. Ah, crap. What's his name? Otherwise, what's his non-superhero name? I forget. But they had him interact with Peter Parker in the in one of the Spider-Man movies where he was acting as his attorney. I would like to see more of that. I would like to see more street level characters interact. Like there's different flavors of the MCU at this point. Like there's the street level heroes, there's the cosmic heroes, there's the supernatural heroes like Doctor Strange, like the occult stuff and all that. Um, my favorites are the street level characters, more so than like the cosmic um, people like I don't know Thor and Miss Marvel and or Captain Marvel and so on. Like or even like Guardians of the Galaxy, even though that storyline's kind of wrapped up. I like the stories that occur on Earth. Hey Bill, how's it going, man? He was the chosen one. Yeah, a brown sniffing dog. I love that brown sniffing dog. Um, yeah. So, like, in fact, that's some of the criticisms that people are laying at this the Marvels movie is, things I think people should relax on a little bit because, like, if you don't like this particular story, right? Which I get, not everybody's going to like this story. It has some story issues to begin with, so like they earn that criticism. It's kind of choppy. They need to pay closer attention to quality in the future, but it's still a fun story. And my take on it is that if you don't really like this story, that's fine. Just give it a break when criticizing the MCU, saying, "Oh, the MCU has seen better days and it's on its way out." I think there's some pretty exciting stuff coming with the MCU, and I look at it like a TV show where like I really enjoyed Breaking Bad as a TV show, right? But there's some of those seasons of Breaking Bad where like not much is going on. It's kind of boring. It's just filler and stuff. I look at it as like the whole MCU is like a TV series almost. Like if you don't like this episode, just skip it and go on to the next one. Like I said, Loki had a phenomenal ending to their series, um, season two. Like the last two episodes of season two, some of the best MCU ever. So like if you're gonna tell me that the MCU's seen better days after watching Loki, come on, man. That's the way I look at it. Do I have any tips for getting views? Uh, I wish I did. Tips for getting views on your YouTube channel. So I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I don't have a ton of subscribers myself, and it's hit or miss on like whether or not my videos actually get many views. Um, so I'm not the expert to ask on that. I will say that some of the pictures that I post that do better than others are because I pay attention to like what time I post them. So maybe that might be helpful, like especially with the shorts that I post. Um, I notice that if I post them around 4 o'clock on the East Coast of the United States, I don't know where you're at, but um, if I post them around 4 o'clock in the evening, that's when people are getting off of work or coming home from school, and I'm more likely to get views than if I post them when nobody's actually on. At least when it comes to the shorts, they do seem to be based on time where if you don't post it when people are actively watching things I don't know, I stay up pretty late, but if I posted something at like 2 o'clock in the morning, no one's going to watch it. It's not like it's going to be seen the next day. You really have to catch people when they're on. So I know it's kind of lame, but that's my only tip really. Like these longer videos, I have no idea how to get people to watch them, to be honest. I'm thankful every single time I come in and there's somebody to talk to because really all of that's organic. I did absolutely nothing to promote this stuff. Maybe that's really what you need to do is you actually have to care about that kind of stuff, which I just like drawing pictures. For me, this is like all to improve my artwork and stuff. I'm not really trying to get like a ton of views, although it would be nice. Um, so I haven't really dived into like promoting it really. Maybe that's what's needed. I don't know. I mean, I can tell like when I do a bad picture why people don't watch that, like because it's lame and it didn't come off very well. But when I do sometimes I do a really good picture and I'm surprised it doesn't get any traction. Don't draw horses. There you go. For some reason, yeah, people don't watch the horse ones, but I love drawing horses. Let's see. Who do I think was at fault for Thanos snapping away half the universe? Um, Thor, Doctor Strange, or Peter? That's a good question. Let me come back to that in a moment. Jeremy, tips for getting views: drink your paint water instead of your bourbon. So what Kid is talking about is one time I was doing a painting and I had my bourbon and I had my brush water and I accidentally drank out of my brush water. Ah, thanks for remembering that, Kid. Who was at fault? That's a really good question. So I I feel like like I should have a stance on that, but my true stance on it is it's a lot like what Thanos said. It's inevitable. So even if it didn't happen one way, it would have happened another. So like if you're watching the movie, it's easy to blame it on Peter Quill, which most people did. You know, they're like, "Oh, what an idiot!" You know, he kind of like woke Thanos up, and you know that's what kept them from getting the gauntlet. But if you recall the story is there was only one way that this was going to work. Now, whether that's true or not, we can debate that. Like I can probably think of a million different ways that could have gone differently, but the in-universe explanation from Doctor Strange is that out of you know 14 million or whatever the number was, there was only one way that they were going to win, and it just had to happen the exact way that it did. So you can't really blame anybody in that case because if it had to happen, like Thanos said, I am inevitable. If you go with that in-universe explanation, then really it's nobody's fault because it was going to happen regardless. So maybe in this universe or this version, Peter Quill was up to blame. Maybe it was Doctor Strange. Maybe it was somebody else. Um, it was just going to happen. That's my take on it. My take is it was going to happen because it was inevitable. It's just a story. It had to play out that way. That's really the writers saying, like, look, I know you guys are going to question this, but don't because we're just going to say this is the way it had to be. And I think that's fine in fiction. We always want to play the blame game. Sometimes nobody's at fault. Sometimes it's just the way it was supposed to happen. So we're starting to get a bit of a horse's face here, which is cool. So I'm going to kind of develop some areas here, I think. So this is where I feel good about the proportions, right? So I feel like the horse's face is about right in terms of length. Happy with that. I might start kind of filling in some areas and like pressing down harder just to get everything just so. So I think over here, kind of bring this around. I do love drawing horses. Like I said, I live in horse country. I'm around horses all the time, and they're beautiful animals. I'm probably around horses as much as I am around dogs. I draw horses less just because they're more involved. Like there's a lot going on in a horse's face. You got to get all the anatomy correct, which is like, um, you know, it's just different. Um, yeah, Ada, like as far as getting views and stuff, it really is it is a matter of time, and YouTube seems to reward people who just stick it out, right? Which is great because like I'm just gonna draw pictures and let them worry about it, like let them deal with the organic growth. What I recommend for you, Ada, is perfect your art. Like if I I think your channel is about art, and I think I did check it out. If your channel is about art, what your job is right now is not to get views, it's to get better at drawing. So like you just practice and practice and practice. And trust me, when I started out, just like a year ago or like January or whatever, I was not drawing pictures like this. In January, I was not drawing pictures like this. Because I draw pictures like that now, more people seem to show up because they like that I'm drawing more interesting pictures. Um, so I think that matters is like the more time you spend with just perfecting your drawing, it translates to more people showing up. And I'm not saying you have to like be a perfect artist. I'm not to get people to watch you. Uh, I don't think people watch this because I'm really all that great. I think people watch it because they enjoy just hanging out and talk, chatting. That's just my guess, though. Like you guys would know better than I do why you guys show up. I have no idea. Maybe it's to watch me drink my paint water. That's another thing. Feel free to like make fun of yourself as I do because like it you know it helps lighten the mood. I think where if you drink your paint water, they will come. I really don't know how to get people to watch. Make sure you tell your friends, tell your friends what you're doing. Make sure that you're aware of what you're doing, right? So like I'm super aware of what I'm doing. My goal is what I why I even have this channel is I started with the New Year's resolution that I was going to be more creative this year. Hopefully draw at least once or twice a week. That was my goal. I feel like I've stuck to it, which is great. But the goal started off is simply that I just wanted to be more creative. Now, as time went by and I started looking at my pictures, I'm like, oh man, I need to get better at drawing. I need to not just be creative, I need to get better at it. So then my goal kind of changed up a little bit, and it was all about just getting better at what I'm doing, like trying to improve. And it's still that. I'm still in that phase. But notice I'm not talking about getting views. I'm not talking about getting people to watch. These are all personal goals of mine, things that I would do regardless of whether or not anybody showed up. Like, it's nice to have one person to talk to when you're doing a live stream, but if nobody showed up, I would still be doing exactly that. I would be being creative, once a week, twice a week, whenever I can fit it in. I would still be trying to draw my pictures better. Um, those are all things I would be doing regardless of whether an audience shows up. And what I truly believe, I haven't seen it yet because I still don't have a ton of subscribers, but what I truly believe is that if you have a goal, like if you have a passion, if you're really, really into something, um, people respond to that. It doesn't matter what it is. Like you could be like really into a particular kind of music that nobody listens to. And if you are really passionate about that kind of music, it's infectious. And just you being so into that music, it rubs off on people and it just other people start getting into it as well. I truly believe that's how things work. Um, so that's my advice. Just do what you're doing and just keep doing it and forget about the numbers and stuff. Let your friends know what you're up to so that they can live through it with you, so that they can join you in your journey. Um, by friends, I mean friends, family, just people you know and stuff like that. Obviously, I'll show up anytime you do a stream. I'll definitely show up. But don't worry about it. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a while. Like I said, I've been at this for a year, and I haven't really seen a ton of traffic myself. I do believe that, like just from listening to other people talk about it, it does take a while. Don't sweat it though. Like seriously, don't sweat it. Like just keep doing what you're doing. That's my advice actually. My advice, regardless of me rambling on about it, is just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. You did, I think, one live stream that I've seen so far, and it's that's all you need to do. Just keep doing that. you grow with it. Like at some point, like I have plans to get a better camera. I have plans to actually learn how to talk properly without stumbling over my words. It's a progression. You build up to these things. What I miss in the chat? Do you think there's ever going to be a Marvel and DC crossover movie? Oh, maybe. Especially since Zack Snyder's at the helm of not Zack Snyder, sorry. Crap. Who's the guy? The one guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy. He escapes my brain for a moment, but he was in Marvel and he's now in DC, so maybe he can broker some deal. I hope so because like I like both Marvel and DC characters. I can't remember the guy's name. Why can't I remember the guy's name? Yeah, that would be cool if there was like a, especially if I saw people like Batman and Wolverine. That would be my fantasy lineup for that. That would be cool. This is my art channel. Had to make it separate from the treasure hunting channel. Hey, Galleria de Atlantic. That's cool that you have like an art channel as well. I will definitely check that out. I'm not sure I've been there yet. All right, so I've got a bit of like the nose going here and stuff, but there's other features, and these are important. So you can kind of see with this like little ridge here and stuff, the formation of muscles underneath the skin, attached to the skull. Um, but there's other things as well. Like there is a very prominent vein that kind of comes up here, kind of across like that and down. And this is other details that are underneath the skin, right? So like it doesn't take a lot to it. You just kind of highlight one side of it. So the light's coming this way. So you kind of highlight this side of it. And it's kind of gross to think about veins under the skin and stuff, but these are some of the details that if you add it to your picture, creates this. I wouldn't call it like super realistic because it's not. I'm not going for hyper realism here or anything like that, but it gives. It's just another detail that people can focus on. And then over here, where it's in the shadow, maybe I might come back and um, just kind of erase some of that out so that there's more of a shadow there. So you got this kind of vein underneath the skin coming basically off the eye here. Um, and just like little things like that, especially like in a horse, that really helps. And there's more than one. So like there is this vein that kind of comes down. So I'm not an expert on horse anatomy, um, but you really don't have to be. Like if you wanted to draw a horse from scratch, like where you don't have any reference pictures, which I don't recommend because they're just so weird in terms of like anatomy. You do need to know horse anatomy. And I do know a little bit of it. I've seen like horse skeletons, things like that. I've seen diagrams of like their circulatory system. I'm just not an expert on it, but just pay attention in your reference photo, and you'll see little features like these veins underneath the skin that kind of like help define the horse's face. And I would argue, I mean, horses are such physical creatures, they're like so imposing. Like if you've ever, so I understand like some people, you've never been out to the country, you've never seen a horse. Um, but if you stand next to them, the sheer power of a horse is amazing. Like not only am I around horses, I'm around horses that compete in like you know sports, and one of the sports is jumping, and it's amazing to me the sheer power of these horses because they weigh a ton, and yet they can jump over objects um, relatively easily. Like they have to train and stuff like that, but they can get to the point where they're able to jump over objects and stuff like that. That's power, like they have a lot of power to them. All right, so looking good there. I think this is looking good to where I feel comfortable kind of like extending the face out a little bit into some other areas. So we've got this ridge here kind of lit up. I think through here, let me add a little bit more just to kind of brighten that up. And then I only want to kind of hint at this other ridge because this one's kind of like lost in the shadows, but there's another ridge. And here's another tip. So like even though I'm kind of just like scribbling lightly to get these marks in, um, like I'm trying to keep them going in the direction that like horses have fur. It's just like really short fur. So I'm trying to get these marks to kind of go in the direction of that fur to make it look more like fur instead of just scribble. Like I could really just kind of go at anywhere I want, but doing it this way, like hatching it in one direction, kind of makes it look like it's following the fur line, which helps, I think. It's hard to see on camera, because I have crappy cameras and so on. One of these days, I'll have a nice fancy camera, and then people will come and watch my show. Maybe someday. But yeah, so like there's a line that kind of comes down the nose, and that's part of the skeletal system, to where there's this ridge here. Let's see what I miss. Remember when the Hulk was a serious character? Yeah, I think that's some of the criticism that the MCU does deserve. Like the um, the Marvels movie is a very fun, not very serious movie. In fact, some of the criticism is that there's some tonal shifts in it that don't make any sense, and I kind of agree with that. But if you go into it wanting to watch the Marvels just for a fun time, and you're not being overly critical, and you're just there to enjoy yourself, you'll have a good time, I think. You know, well, opinions may vary. You may not have a good time, but I had a good time. Um, but yeah, it's kind of there's some silly parts to it, kind of on the level that Thor Love and Thunder had in it. You know, like I thought that Thor Love and Thunder was a little too campy and a little too less serious than what I would like. But that's just me, like not all the movies are made for me. There's kids who watch this movie, and then there's grown adults like me that watch these movies. So they kind of have to vary it up a little bit. But yeah, there is some non-serious stuff in the Marvels, and I'm not a huge fan. I'm not personally a huge fan of the direction that they have the Hulk in. I would like to see the Hulk go back to being like this raging um, mad character and stuff, and not the Professor Hulk that they currently have him in. I hope that they go back to the original Hulk at some point, and they kind of like do that. But he's been in so many movies. He's had like a solid story arc. They could get rid of the Hulk if they wanted to, and I feel like that story's kind of complete. He's got a full character arc there. He's been in quite a few movies. When Matruna commented on one of my videos, back though. Yeah, so you missed all that those helpful comments that we had about how to get people to watch your show. I can summarize it for you. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great, Ada. It's one of those things that, like, just being in it eventually pays off, I think. Um, don't sweat the small stuff. And, like, partially just be comfortable with small audiences. I like that I have a small audience right now. Honestly, it's tough following every single comment in the chat already. And I think that like if my channel did grow, which I hope it does, like I'm not saying that I don't want people to watch my show. I do. Um, but I do think that if it grows, I'm probably going to have somebody help me out with the comments and stuff, like read your comments for me and stuff like that so that I know what to respond to. Because I kind of get lost in drawing my picture as well. So I kind of lose track sometimes. And I don't want you guys to feel like I'm ignoring you or anything. So plus, on Friday nights, it's all about the comments. We're just hanging out, having a good time drawing pictures anyway. I appreciate the compliment. I like the expression in this horse's face. He or she has this kind of like quizzical look here, I guess. Oh, all those people worked out at your gym there, Bill? That's cool. Everybody always calls you Bill Gorman. I just want to call you Bill. Like they can't just call you Bill. They always say Bill Gorman. All right, so here's another tough one. I need to figure out exactly how far the cheek comes out. Like I don't want it to be too wide. So this is, so you see the process. I'm using really light lines to kind of figure this part out. Got this ridge here. I think that's where I want to end it. Kind of comes down more or less. And I'm keeping it really light because I'm not sold on it yet. I didn't make any of those like little cheat marks that I talked about in the beginning for those. I think the mouth is going to come around and kind of be lined up with what I set as the the veins. Sorry, I'm just thinking things through. One of the things I enjoy when drawing and we're just creating art in general, and I feel like this isn't talked about enough, um, but art is such a problem solving skill. Like your job as an artist is less about drawing pictures as it is about solving problems in your art, or just trying to translate things in the world to a piece of page or something like that. And I love that aspect of it because I do enjoy problem solving. That's like my thing. Um, Jack calls you Bill. Oh, okay, there you go. All right. Well, if you don't mind me calling you Bill, I will call you Bill too. Okay, well, have a good one, Ada. Just keep at it. Keep at it. That's my only recommendation to you. I appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, so like I feel like a lot of drawing is actually problem solving. Like how do I get the light to show up right on this? How do I get all of the pieces together in the right places? Like I feel like there's a bit of a chin here. There's like a highlighted part that kind of comes up and around here. This vein might be a little bit low. I should have drawn it up here, but I'm not going to mess with that because I don't know how to fix that. Um, Actually, I'm going to fix that. So this is an example of problem solving. I'm going to move that vein and I will lightly erase this and then kind of blend it in, right? So that vein I feel was too low. So I'm going to extend this stuff up, but this is going to be my new vein mark because I feel like this is a better place for it. And I have to be careful so that it doesn't look like there's two veins there. So I'm gotta kind of blend that in a little bit. Yeah, so I think that's fine. And then this bit here needs to have a bit of a curve on it. And then kind of come up here. And that should be basically down from the eye. So I think that's good. So that's the mouth. There you go. Art was the first alphabet. I agree with that. And what fascinates me about that aspect of art is how early human beings adopted art as a like partly as a communication tool, but also just like there's a lot of evidence that suggests that early artists like cavemen essentially did it just for the expression of it. Like it wasn't necessarily to communicate. Like they have found examples of artwork. I don't know, like in caves and stuff like that. I don't know where they find this stuff. But there's no real evidence that it was used to communicate to anything to anyone. It was just done for the pure sake of art, which I find very fascinating because I really do believe that being creative, and not everybody's into art or drawing or painting or anything like that, but we all create. I think that being creative is a necessary and important part of the human condition, like our desire to create. Like I think that everybody has that desire. Um, whether you're creating offspring or not, like, it doesn't have to be pictures. It could be creating duplicates of yourself through kids and stuff like that. I feel like we all have that desire to create things, make things. You know, some of us not visual. Some of it, some people do it with music. Some people do it with food. You know, culinary arts, chefs and stuff. Like they take great pride in their work, which is basically chemistry. Great chefs and stuff like that. They're part artist, part chemist. Just adding more highlight to build up that cheekbone there. And then that kind of comes down. I really like drawing with white pencil on black paper because it is really just following the light. And I like to do that with like traditional pencils as well, but there you're following the shadows. And I think there's something interesting about following the light instead of following the shadows. Like it just sounds better. Like, but it's also kind of fun. It's different, you know, because anybody can pick up a pencil and draw shadows and stuff and create and stuff like that. This is definitely like an interesting alternative to doing that. How are we doing on time? Trying to keep track. All right. But yeah, art is uh art is one of the first languages. Um, even as a communication tool, like was it cuneiform is one of the early alphabets. That's just a series of marks, with an agreed upon meaning. But even like the drawings and things like that, like I'm fascinated by the evolution of certain things, like for example, like Egyptian art is uh is largely two-dimensional, like you basically have figures in profile or figures straight on. There's no like real three-dimensionality in the work, which is really amazing to me. I don't know if that's because like certainly they could see in three dimensions. They built the pyramids. But it's kind of fascinating to me that they chose the two-dimensional um, form of drawing as their primary thing. And like I don't know enough on the topic, but it makes me wonder, like, is that a choice? Like, was that just the style that they enjoyed, or was there a reason why they only drew in two dimensions? Like, what's up with that? Like, why are there no three-dimensional pictures? And then I would extend that into some of the medieval art, is pretty flat. Like there's not a lot of depth to those pictures. And then you get into like people like Leonardo da Vinci, who was very, very, you know, totally comfortable drawing or painting pictures that had a lot of depth and had a lot of realism to them. And then like I don't know, one of my favorite artists is Rembrandt. That guy was just a master of light and shadows and things like that. Makes me uh makes me wonder, could somebody in Egyptian times, you know, create art that had that sort of like tonal quality to it where you have like deep shadows and lights and more of a three-dimensional representation. And if they could, then why didn't they? Was that just a choice, or I don't know. It is interesting to think about. Like I think back to like when I first started drawing, and I think my experience probably mimics many others where I drew lines, but I didn't draw like, shadows and tonal values and things like that. So I'm wondering if like at some point they just learned that they could, and then the art progressed or something. I really don't know. I think that would be interesting to figure out. I'm sure somebody's looked into something like that. Art in like ancient times compared to medieval times compared to modern times, and how art progresses. But it's not like anybody had cameras back then, so like you had to draw pictures or paint pictures or something like that if you wanted to convey what something looked like. Would have been easier to be an artist back then. High demand. Nowadays, you're largely replaced by a camera. I don't think that's true though. I think there's things that artists do that aren't things that cameras do. You know, there's like or things that AI do or something like that. And there's definitely like a human aspect to choosing pictures and how you want to lay them out and things like that. I think there's still a place for human beings in this world. You guys are all quiet. It's because you're watching Loki. My work's done. I'm just a shill for Loki. My sole job is to get you guys convinced that Loki's the greatest show ever, and you guys are all out there watching it right now. Hopefully, you guys got interesting weekend plans. I haven't really thought about it. My dad's a veteran, and one of the things he likes to do for Veterans Day is go around and there's a lot of places that offer discounts for veterans and free meals for veterans and things like that. He makes like like a fun adventure out of it. Like how many different places can he go to in one day? So even though I'm not a veteran, my brother is, and usually my brother hangs out with them, but sometimes I tag along just because I think that's kind of cool. I really should be drawing like this is a veteran war horse. I should be drawing like something for Veterans Day. Yeah, this is a war horse. Hey, cool. There you go. All right, so you got a second interview. That's awesome, Robert. They should have just hired you on the spot. They, they're gonna find that they made a mistake. They should have just hired you on the spot. But no, I mean, if you've got a second, oh, you do start. Oh, okay, all right. So you already, so you are hired. Sorry, I misread that. I thought that you have a second interview and all that. That's awesome, man. I knew you were going to do well. All right, so you got this feature here. It kind of comes up into the, I guess, whatever this is up here. I'm going to call it brow, even though I think this is like the brow. Whatever this skull feature, I guess, is. The weird thing about drawing horses is that you have to look through the horses and see their skull, and you have to see their muscles, and you have to see all these different things that you just, intuitively know, when you're drawing a human being or drawing a dog because you're more around them often. Yeah, that's typical. House shopping and realtors wait for someone else to make an offer before they call me. Yeah. All right, so right underneath the eye, so that'd be right around here. This part starts. So like whatever that is, the trachea. I don't know. Most of this is muscle. Like horses have like crazy muscles. So I think part of this is the throat, but I think it's muscular throatage. I'm throwing out really technical terms here. Muscular throatage. But this kind of comes down into the neck. and kind of ties into this area here. It just kind of blends in. There's no hard separation here. It's all part of the same thing. There you go. I think that's good. I do love horses. Oh, you're going to be working 3 jobs. Dang. Man, you're in demand. Hopefully those are like realistic schedules, so like they only give you a couple of hours at each one, and you're not like doing double shifts or anything. That would suck. But I don't know your circumstances, so maybe that's exactly what you're looking for, but it does sound like it sucks. All right, and then behind the ear, there's a massive muscle that kind of comes around, like almost like some big muscular, like dude's biceps or something. Kind of comes around like here. And of course, the top of that's all highlighted. So I'll go ahead and fill that in. Then it kind of tapers off into the shadows. So again, I'm still keeping things kind of light. I'm not throwing in like a heavy amount of like detail or anything like that yet, or like really highlighted details. Hopefully I'll have time for all of that, but just still getting through all the different forms. There is some hair that kind of comes out up here, but I want to kind of figure out how that looks here. So there's a bit of hair that kind of comes down here. This stuff here is all kind of like not focused on, so it's kind of like a little bit blurred, but I'll bring that down here. And then we've got just some general neck, but I'm not going to go crazy on drawing the neck and stuff. I just want to hint at some of those features, mostly with hair coming off the mane. Yeah, okay. If they're all part-time and stuff, that sounds reasonable. There's only 24 hours in the day, is what I'm saying. Hopefully, and I want to make sure that you get some sleep. The human body needs at least, I don't know, 5 hours of sleep. I would love to get 5 hours of sleep. I don't get uninterrupted sleep. I have dogs, and the dogs are like little children, and they, for some reason, they decide to wake me up several times throughout the night. It's frustrating. I know I can probably train them to be better, but I just suck at that, and they run the house. But yeah, as long as you're getting some sleep and stuff and you're well rested, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. Just in time for the holidays as well. Get some cool gifts under the tree. There's a there's like an Amazon plant around here. Not plant. Shipping center or something like that. A lot of people go and get seasonal jobs. They uh they pay pretty well, I think. Yeah, that's looking cool. Um, we need a cool channel name. I like that. That's a great channel name. Cool channel name. Yeah, 5 hours of sleep. That's probably the minimal you need. I don't remember the last time I got full 8 hours of sleep. I probably like got drunk and slept in on a weekend or something. Um, let's see. I like to get up early sometimes and I like to go to bed late. So like for me, the ideal sleep schedule would be to bed by midnight and up by 6. So that's what, 6 hours? I think that's what I would like. I don't know if that's healthy or not. Somebody would have to tell me if that's healthy, but that would be ideal, I think. All right, so I think that looks cool. Maybe I'll add some highlights in there. You got some tufts of fur in the mane that kind of come up and around the ear. The ear is just like kind of all in shadow, so it's just hinted at here. But you got like another little tuft of fur coming off of that. You've got some fur indicating, not fur, this is hair, not fur, but you've got some parting there. And then it kind of comes down as in like almost curtains around the back. And I think all that looks cool. So I do think some of this needs to be wider than others, but I want to make sure that I get everything in there. Like we're only like an hour and 10 minutes into this, so I don't feel pressure yet, but I am kind of feeling like I need to make progress. So this is almost like a reflected light down at the bottom of his mouth, and I don't want to get crazy there, but I just want to kind of bring this around so that I know where Horsey's face ends and where it starts over here on this side. So I think that's probably pretty good. I want to leave most of this in shadow. Over here, I kind of want kind of a little bit, pull a little bit of that nose out of the shadow. And this is really what's interesting. It is a self-portrait, who cares? Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really love that cat picture. So, like I mentioned a little while ago, I leave the cat picture up because I kind of want to match that style when I'm doing this horse one as well. I don't think the horse one's going to look as nice as that cat one. That cat one looks really nice. I'm rather proud of it. But yeah, who cares? This is exactly my self-portrait that everybody's been asking me to do. So what I'm doing here is kind of the challenge of working with light and shadows on a black piece of paper. So like you have all of this in shadow, which you do want, and then you want to kind of pull out elements and stuff so that you get. So I mentioned a lot of times that drawing is a form of communication, right? So I want to communicate to you the shape of the horse, and to do that, I need to pull some of these things out of the shadows so that you know that the horse's face stops here. I think that's one of the fascinating things about this particular style of drawing with white pencil on black paper, which I'm really starting to enjoy. Like I plan to do a lot of these in the future, but um, I like how they turn out. Other people seem to enjoy them as well. So as long as people like them, I'll continue making them. I think especially like sometimes I do pictures for people. I like this style, so like if somebody wants me to do their dog or something like that, I'll ask them if they like this style and suggest it to them at least because I like the way it turns out. Might be moving to Kentucky if the lazy. Oh, okay. Yeah, Kentucky's nice, man. Honestly, you can't go anywhere in this state without running across a horse farm if you're in central Kentucky. The place where I live, 10 minutes in any direction, and it's just all horse farms. Like you see these, so like I've lived in some places where it's all cows. So like I've mostly lived in rural places my whole life where they have fields of animals and stuff like that. But it's been mostly cows everywhere I go, and it's really interesting where I live now because although it's the same kind of fields, it's just fields and fields and fields, but they're all filled with horses instead of cows. And horses are beautiful, and it's funny to watch them play. Like when they didn't think you're not watching, they'll just run around, roll around, chase each other. They're super cute animals, and they I read an article once, and like for horse people, this was a little sad. It said that horses don't really care who the person is. They just love being around people. So like horses love being around people. They don't so much care who the person is. So like if your horse is your boyfriend, you can just leave that out of the equation. Because they don't care if it's you or me, they just want to be around someone. But they're very sociable animals. They want to be around people, and that dynamic I think is great. 1 acre and a holler. That's what we got out here, especially out in eastern Kentucky. Bunch of hollers out in the holler. I think that's where I'm going for Thanksgiving. Actually, the brother's wife is from eastern Kentucky, and I might be going out there to celebrate because they don't live in Kentucky now, so they come out to visit her folks. I might be going out there to meet up with them and stuff for Thanksgiving. Ooh, 9 horses. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the downside to horses. They do require a lot of maintenance. They require a lot of maintenance and they have a lot of health problems. They are constantly trying to kill themselves. And you can probably get it like if you love horses and you want to take care of a horse, you can probably actually get a horse pretty cheap. But the big expense is going to be in boarding them, and even if you do have some land where that's not a big deal, the other big expense is in vet bills because they have all sorts of problems, um, like all sorts of problems, you know. And basically, they need to see a vet all the time. Um, they have like their insides get twisted up. They you know they break things, they get caught on things, they get stuck on things. There's all kinds of diseases that attack their system. Um, it's actually kind of sad because like if you do love your horse, like they can live for a long time. Horses, I don't know what the upper limit is and stuff, but 30 years and stuff like that. That's not unusual. Um, but the problem is with them is that like the chances of them surviving that long because they didn't get some disease or something like that is the odds are stacked against them, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's kind of sad, but they're great animals if you can deal with all of that stuff. Horses' legs are technically fingers. That's interesting. I'm not even going to look that up because I think that's awesome. I believe you. I just love horses. They're so much fun. Um, I haven't gotten a chance to ride a horse in many years. Like it's been a while. I feel like I need to do that again. Like just go on some trail riding. If I do that, it probably won't be this winter, but maybe in spring or something. I'll video it to share with you guys. But I should probably share some of the video I have of like horse parades and things like that around here. I should really be sharing more photos. Let me know if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe you guys just show up to see the pictures I draw and stuff. You don't care about things that happen around here and stuff. I respect that. I'm not going to bombard you with a bunch of crap that you guys don't care about. But if you are interested in that, I can post some photos of like some of the horse farms around here, some of my friends' horses. I don't own any horses myself, but there's like a ton of them around here and stuff. I can share those with you guys. And then, like if I participate in some horse related activity, I can share video of that if you want. I don't know who Drake Bell is, so I don't know if I remember when Spider-Man was voiced by him. I do like that they're bringing back like this probably isn't directly related to what you're talking about, but I do like that they're bringing back some of the former actors and stuff who played Spider-Man, like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and all of that's awesome. Some of it's like audience pandering, you know, but that's fine. Give the people what they want, is what I say. So in this area over here, just a little bit of light catching it on the ridge. Don't have to. That's the other thing I like about this art style. There's like less detail I have to actually do. I have trouble with ears. I have trouble with like hands and stuff like that. All the same stuff that um, new artists find themselves dealing with that they hate. Um, oh, there's actually a line in the in the Marvels movie. So Miss Marvel is I don't know, she's a teenager, she's in high school. I want to say she's like 16 or something like that, but one of her hobbies is drawing. And she's they start the movie with like some of her drawings. She's like really into like the whole thing about Miss Marvel is she's a superhero fangirl and who happens to become a superhero. And I love that dynamic. But anyway, it's part of her fandom. She likes to draw, and they actually in the TV show for Disney Plus, and also now in the movie, they kind of like had some of her drawings and stuff like that. And she's sitting there drawing a picture, and I'm like, "Oh, this is cool." And she's like, "Ah," she starts scratching out this the hands that she drew, and she tries again and she scratches it out and stuff and she's like, I just can't draw hands. And I'm like, I can relate to that. So that's probably something that you guys may not enjoy from the movie, but that is something I enjoyed. It was just a fun little dynamic to have her doing her fan art in a major, Marvel movie. I thought that was cool. I don't feel like that's a spoiler. It's just a small little bit that they did at the beginning of the movie and stuff. But yeah, she's like a superhero fangirl who would probably go to Comic Cons and things like that, who ended up with superpowers. So it's kind of a cool little thing. She's got her own show on Disney Plus, but nobody seems to have watched it. So if you do go see the movie, she's probably one of the more fun parts of the movie, like just her being super excited about everything that's going on. I love that dynamic. All of the characters in the movie, they really got along well, and that chemistry between them all, I think that really plays to the movie. So anyway, you're gonna see on YouTube some critiques of the movie, and probably some of them are fair, but I'm telling you that I think some of them are overblown. But that's just my opinion. You may watch that movie and just hate it. I don't think it's going to be anybody's favorite Marvel movie, but it's not as bad as they're making it out to be. I don't. I think a lot of that criticism is just junk. I think they just need something to talk about on their YouTube shows, so they make up hate. Hey, welcome back. Yeah, Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man is one of the best ones. Even if, yeah, exactly. Even if the movies that he was in weren't that great, he really loved playing Spider-Man in his shows and his performance. And the fact that they didn't give him his third movie is just like a shame. And I'm glad that they made up for it by putting him in the Spider-Man movie where like they were doing that multiverse thing. I think that that's great because I mean, to see him in the interviews, he loves playing Spider Man. Hey, Mama Q. Nah, this isn't I'm drawing a dog. What makes you think it's a horse? Jeez. Man, am I that bad? I'm gonna have to erase this and start over. I was drawing a dog. I'm just kidding. Yes, it's a horse. It's a horse in that style that I've been doing that I really like, where you're drawing in white pencil on black paper. All right. So I think all the basic elements are there. I'm pretty happy with everything. I think at this point, let's see how we doing on time. I think at this point I'm going to try to like highlight some areas because it's still kind of flat. Like if you look at this horse compared to the cat over there, there's some pieces that are pretty flat, and I hate that. I try not to do flat pictures. Now I don't know how. Like I don't think this horse is going to look as good as that cat, but I'm going to apply some pressure in some areas just to really try to get some more three dimensionality to this picture. So I'm gonna do that while we're talking. Yeah, it's a big dog. It's fun when I take my dog to like the vet or something like that, or I take them for a drive through the country. Um, I always point out the horses and say, "Look at the big doggy over there." They don't care. Like to them, they're just all a bunch of dumb cows. I don't know which is smarter, horses or cows. Because cows, I think, are pretty smart. They just look dumb. I really don't know. I'm a fan of cows too. I need to draw a cow at some point. So you can see already just applying some pressure through here and stuff. It really creates some extra depth um, to like where the really highlighted areas. And I think that that's a nice effect on these type of pictures. And it really is what kind of gives it that finished look, I think. Like if I just left it like the way it was, for one, applying this pressure and stuff kind of smooths things out, so looks less sketched. But also it kind of creates that three dimensionality. Bears are just extra stout horses. I believe that. You have a dog the size of a horse. Oh, a dog the size of a horse. So is that like a Great Dane? I love Great Danes. My brother's got a Great Dane. Sorry, I've got allergies and stuff. So if I snot on camera, sorry about that. So you got this ridge over the eye, for example, that can catch a lot of that light. You've got so they've got eyelashes, and the eyelashes are kind of weird. They just kind of drape over. Let me sharpen this a little bit. Like, well, I'll come back to those eyelashes. There's a ridge here underneath the eye that's super bright. Just these little areas where it's like super bright just really makes a picture. I don't want to say pop because I hate that when people say it makes it pop. Oh, I hate that. But it does. It makes it pop. The problem is I also build websites, and that's like so common for people to say, I want something to make it pop. Ugh. But it really does actually make it pop. But with these colored pencils, it'd be a little bit different if I was doing this in pastel, which I like to do these pictures in pastel as well. But with these colored pencils, it's just amount of pressure that you put on them, and then you just kind of go in circles. Oh, BoJack Horseman, I love that show. Oh, that's a great show. Remember when Hulk and War Machine were played by different actors? What? One's Mark Ruffalo, and the other one's what's his name? Don Cheadle? Cheadle? Cheadle. I think that's it. I'm terrible with names, guys. Sorry. These guys deserve better. Like I should remember their names and stuff. But what do you mean? What do you mean they're like played by the same actor? I don't think that's true. Unless you mean like I don't know, like voice acting in like an animated show or something. Oh, speaking of animated show, X-Men '97 is coming out soon. That's going to be cool. I'm a fan of the old X-Men cartoon. So just, you know, catching that light. I want to say this is a horse out in the paddock at night, which okay, it's in the stall. There you go. I'll say that. It's kind of rare for people to leave their horses out overnight. Um, but yeah, it's catching that moonlight in the stall. Yeah, Ed Norton as Hulk, that's probably my least favorite Marvel movie, even though some of the movies weren't that great. That's probably my least favorite because I hate that kind of continuity problem. So like that they replaced them and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like a Marvel movie. I liked Edward Norton. I liked him as the Hulk, but then when they replace him and stuff, I kind of feel like it's no longer the Hulk. So then the movie itself kind of suffers for me. Like I can't get into it. I've tried to go back and watch it, and I just can't get into it. That's not to say that Edward Norton did a bad job or that the movie sucked or anything like that. I just feel like it doesn't belong in the universe anymore. It doesn't feel like it's a Hulk movie or part of the MCU. I'm really big into like continuity. That's one of my favorite things about the MCU is that all the movies do kind of like live in the same universe. I like it when books do that kind of stuff. Like I'm a huge fan of Anne Rice. Um, and I like that, she had vampires, she had witches, she had werewolves and stuff, but they all like lived in this shared universe. I love that kind of aspect of fiction because it like that world building, I guess it is. I like, you know, Game of Thrones spinoffs for the same thing reason. Like, even though I'm not a huge fan of that last season of Game of Thrones, I don't know anybody who is, but I like that they can create new movies and new stories and stuff like that in previous times and stuff, and it all shares that universe. I like shared universes, is what I'm getting at. I'll put some highlights along this ridge over here because, like, I feel like that's really catching that light. Remember when Captain America was the Human Torch? Yeah, I remember that. He was so young back then too. He's been in so many different comic book inspired. He was in Scott Pilgrim, which is comic book inspired. Whoa, Scott Pilgrim. They're making a new animated series about that for Netflix. I'm so looking for that. Scott Pilgrim is. I love that movie. That movie was great. I'm a huge fan of Scott Pilgrim. So when that comes out, expect me to be talking about Scott Pilgrim a lot because, like, big deal to me. I like all the people who played in that. I like, uh, I had a crush on Ramona Flowers. Like, just all of that is just like great, great movie stuff. I think this is looking kind of cool. Maybe extend that lighted ridge across there. The thing about horses is there's all that because they have such thin skin, there's all that anatomy showing through, right? So like if you can get a vein in there, you're good. If you can catch some of the muscle tone, some of that stuff. So like, you know, it's kind of like when you're drawing humans, right? And you're drawing a bodybuilder or something like that, that's like 1% body fat, you know, you have to like know anatomy at that point because like everything's showing through that skin. It's definitely the same with horses. Less so with like dogs and cats and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of fat and fur and stuff like that there. You don't have to worry about anatomy as much. I mean, you still do, but with horses it becomes really apparent because it's like all thin skin and so on. Oh, Gen V, yeah, 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 yeah. Gen V was awesome. I love that. It's one of those spin-offs that makes you wonder, like, is it is the original really all that great? Because the spin-off is like better, I think. Um, I actually like the spin-off better than the original show on that. Yeah, Gen V, some of it is like a little bit gory and gross, so, but yeah, but that's what you expect when you watch one of the boys' shows. Hey, have a good one. Oh, college volleyball. That sounds awesome. Let me know who wins. Well, we all know who's going to win. I'm rooting for your kids. There you go. Good luck. Um, yeah, Gen V is a great spinoff. Yeah, I think they're making a new Fantastic Four. They're always screwing with that canon. That's what's frustrating. Like, I think they're resetting their whole, like, their overarching storyline is supposed to be about Kang and the multiverse. I think they're kind of tinkering with that now because the guy who plays Kang is like in some legal trouble, like Jonathan Majors. And then I think they're having trouble getting Kang to relate to general audiences anyway. So I think they're switching that up a little bit. And what I heard, and this is just a rumor, like somebody else would have to confirm it because I don't know shit. I heard that they're doing Doctor Doom instead. It's like the big bad, which of course Doctor Doom would definitely mean that they need Fantastic Four as well. Yeah, they're having a lot of trouble with that Fantastic Four. So I don't know how the MCU would do it differently. I will say, actually, I shouldn't say because I think it's a spoiler, but uh, if you watch the Marvels, there is some introduction of new material that will probably become a greater focus in the future. And that's all I can really say about that because too much more would be a spoiler. But yeah, I went and watched the matinee of that today, and I'm glad I did. You know, like the way people were talking about it, I was like, oh man, this is going to be a bomb. Like they were talking about it being like Marvel's first bomb, and it may be, but I was like, I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to go and watch it. I went in with zero expectations, and I had a lot of fun. I thought it was good. I hesitate to say good because some of the criticism is actually warranted. Like it had definite story problems, things like that. But it was a fun time. So hopefully it doesn't bomb as bad as people expect it to. You know, there's a lot of reasons for that. Part of it's the movie itself. Part of it's they had that whole actor strike, so they had trouble promoting it. Let me say this. So, like, as part of the promotion, I don't feel like this is in too much in spoiler territory, but as part of the promotion, they had um they had 8 hours of live streaming a cat sanctuary in L.A. and they said that they were flurkins, and if you watch the movie, that is 100% appropriate promotional for this movie. I'm glad I watched that 8 hours of a cat cafe or something like that. I thought that was a lot of fun. Kind of blending that nose in a little bit so that it's not so starkly just out there. Um, so along here, there's some white areas, I think. How are we doing on time? I have a hard cutoff at the 2 hour mark because I'm supposed to do a watch party with some people. The horse needs to be smoking. It's not BoJack Horseman. I love BoJack Horseman, by the way. Like, I should have talked about that more when it was mentioned. Um, yeah, BoJack Horseman. It's great storytelling. It's got this philosophical element to it, this existential, kind of like um, existential dread to it. I love it. It's such a good show, and it's over now, and I think it had an appropriate run to it. Like I don't feel like they could have milked it for that much more, but it's a thinking show. It's not made for kids, even though it's animated. It's definitely for adults, but it's not like the dumb adult animation like The Simpsons, for example, or Family Guy or American Dad or something, where it's just for laughs or something like that. It's definitely a thinking show with a lot of philosophical elements to it that I enjoyed, and and it's very risky for the people who made it because, like, it's one of those things. Who is this for? Like, what sort of audience might connect with this and stuff? And I imagine when they pitched that show they probably got met with some resistance, and I'm glad they took a chance on it because it's an excellent show. It's definitely not for all audiences and stuff like that, but it hit home with me. I enjoyed it, and I hope that creators take risks like that with in the future with other shows. There you go, man. Sometimes it's hard to articulate your opinion, but I feel like I nailed it on that one. I feel like they took a risk and it paid off. And I hope they other people are creative like that in the future. There you go. That's my opinion on that. Same audience as Adult Swim. Yeah. Um, yeah. Um, kind of. Because some of that stuff you see on Adult Swim is like there's a it's not a thinking show. Like, you're supposed to shut your brain off for it or whatever. I would say that that's not the case for like BoJack Horseman. Your brain should be turned on, and you should be paying attention to some of the themes in it. Uh, if you're into that kind of stuff, like it's not one of those things that you can just kind of watch in the background and stuff. Like don't get me wrong. Not everything has to be highbrow for me to like it. I love American Dad, for example. American Dad is hilarious. Way better than Family Guy, even though they're made by the same people essentially. Um, BoJack Horseman is not Family Guy. Like I can watch Family Guy, just leave it on in the background, watch it as I'm falling asleep before I take a nap or something like that, and thoroughly enjoy it. It's not that kind of a show, I don't think. It's one of those things where you really should pay attention to it and you should really appreciate the storytelling there. And I feel like I'm on the verge of overhyping it, but that's kind of how I feel about it. I feel like it's a it's a really good show, and you should take the time to appreciate it without overhyping it because I feel like I'm in that territory where I've kind of made it out to be more than it is, but like it is still just a TV show, and it is still just an animated TV show. But what I like is when they do serious storytelling with even though it is animation. Yeah, I think that's true. So like just because something is animated doesn't mean it has to be dumb or phoned in or something like that. I like that some places or some shows will do like really serious storytelling. Um, for some reason, what popped in my head just now was Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. That's serious storytelling, even though it's animated. That's serious sci-fi kind of you know thinking kind of shows. There's kind of like some highlighted ridges through here, kind of dipping into down here, almost like almost like teeth, but it's not really. Highlights going through here. I think this is looking pretty good. Hey, thanks, Lorraine. Appreciate it. LDR is beautiful. What is LDR? I feel like I should know. Oh, Love, Death, and Robots. I just mentioned it. I'm like, well, LDR. I never think of it as LDR. But yeah, LDR. I'm just gonna call it Love, Death, and Robots because that's what I've been calling it in my head. I don't know. Is that what the kids are calling it? LDR? Um, that show is great, and what I like about that show is it gives like multiple animators, almost free reign. I think I really don't know the backstory to it, but my imagination is that it gives is that they have artists come in with free reign to do whatever story that they want to do, kind of like in the just to make sure that it's kind of in the same genre as everything else. They probably have some limitations, but they it does seem like it's one of those things where artists get to express themselves and tell the stories that they want to tell. I love that aspect of it. And most like I don't think I've seen one that was dumb, like one that I regret watching. That's fine. Hey, and maybe LDR is what people call it. I don't know. But I'm not sure that I've seen one that I didn't like. I think all of them are good. I think their first episode was those robots from the future who come to the Earth, like from the future or something like that, and kind of look at things from like an archaeological perspective. I love that idea. I think that they should develop that into like a full show, just kind of like looking at culture through the eyes of robots from the future, because like one day human beings will all be dead and there'll just be robots. Um, I love that. I love that concept. I think that that should be its own full show. I feel like I can develop this picture forever because there's like so many different details here that I can I can keep adding to, like continue to create depth and stuff. But let's see, how are we doing on time? I do have to find a stopping point in the next 15 minutes or so, so I should probably wrap this up with some kind of finish off some of this stuff and call it done. Vignettes. There you go. That's what the Animatrix. Yeah, exactly. It's like the Animatrix, and I love the Animatrix when that came out. I thought and that's exactly the same thing where they went off and kind of gave the each individual artists, uh, you know, let them do it in their own style, tell their own stories, and it's great because it just explored some different aspect of the Matrix. Um, One of my favorite stories from the Animatrix was that one where they went to that spot that was like, basically glitching in the Matrix, and it was kind of like in the universe. It was kind of a haunted house, even though we knew because we're familiar with the Matrix, it was just a glitch in the Matrix. But all of the neighborhood kids or whatever, I don't know. It's been a while since I watched that the Animatrix, but as I recall, the neighborhood kids thought it was haunted or something like that. It was just a bunch of like little anomalies going on and stuff like that. I love that story. That was great. And I love the style of that one too. Like, you know, the Animatrix came out before anime really hit. Like there were still people into anime and stuff like Japanese art, animated art, but it didn't really have that cultural zeitgeist that it has now. I don't even know if that's the right word, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Zeitgeist. Um, you know, Anime hadn't really hit its stride yet, and I love that the Animatrix really took chances. Like they didn't have to do that. The Matrix was already enormously successful. They didn't have to augment it with the Animatrix, but I'm glad they did. Those shows you can go back and watch now. Some of the computer animated stuff it doesn't really hold up because like computer animation has really grown. But the other stuff, that stuff is just as good now as it was back then. That's what's great about like actual drawing, like actual stuff like this. Like this is timeless. You can have like AI come around and create artwork for you and stuff like that. But this kind of drawings here, this is this traditional art, I guess. Traditional animation, that's what I would call it. The traditional animation from the Animatrix, you know, that survives the test of time. That's what I was going for. Traditional. Thanks, kid. Yeah, this horse definitely needs. Honestly, I'm probably not going to do it during this live stream, but this horse, if the horse had a cigarette coming out, maybe like a scotch in it or something like he had like a little horse hand holding up like a glass of bourbon or something like that, that would look really cool, like in a man cave or something like that. So I might actually do that. I do that sometimes with my pictures, as I come back and I redirect them. Um, like even though they're done, they're drawn, and I consider them like completed works. Um, well, you guys saw that with the just recently with the skull that I redid for Halloween, where I added to it and made it into a vampire. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I come back and I take a picture that I'd already done and kind of like move it in a different direction. I might do that with this horse because this horse definitely is asking for it. It's a very classic horse, and it seems like he would be smoking a cigar or a pipe or something like that, and just chilling out in the man cave with a glass of bourbon or something like that or scotch. My drink's bourbon, but nothing wrong with scotch. I'm not sure the last time I had a good scotch, to be honest. So a little bit highlighted ridge around through here. I think at this point I'm going to try to get some really really bright highlights in here. This is where I turn to my gel pen because my gel pen is brighter than my color pencil. So like I can apply a bunch of pressure, but because it's black paper and the colored pencils are semi-transparent, what I found is that if I want a spot to be really, really bright, like I want this to be really, really bright through here because this is what catches that light. I'll come in and add some my gel pen and then just kind of smudge it out with my fingers, and it blends in with the colored pencils really well because the colored pencils are wax based, and this gel pen kind of just flows right into that. So they work really well together. But the point is that the gel pen is brighter on this black paper. So it's part of my technique, I guess, for working on this black paper. And I think it looks really good. So like I want this to be really bright through here, for example, just underneath that ear. And I have to be careful when smudging it. Get a little bit on my finger here, but I want to make sure that it smudges in the right direction and that it works with the picture and doesn't take away from the picture. And I also don't want to overdo it. It's meant to just be a highlight. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be like a full actual thing that I used to draw. It's hard to explain. So when I do my pastel pictures, I would really just be blending with them. Oh, that's tough. Like I want to just lightly blend that. There you go. When when I'm doing with my pastel pictures, I'm using the large chunky pastel and stuff for this part. So it's kind of mimicking that bit, but it's a little bit different. I don't know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that like I feel comfortable using the gel pen in these particular cases on this. Wearing a fez. Oh, he needs a like a little derby cat. No, you mean like a fez, like one of those. We call them Shriner caps around here, but yeah, I guess that would be a fez cap. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe as like a kid or something, hanging out with the Shriners. I think my granddad was a Shriner. They had those little carts that they drove in parades. You guys probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, like it's almost painted when you apply this gel stuff. So I try to use it sparingly because I still want it to look drawn. But I like that you can get these like little patches of highlights that really make certain areas pop. I hate that word pop, um, but it is. It's meant to make it pop. So like through here and stuff, this really should have been brighter. Just got to be careful to like make sure it kind of flows in the right direction. But I don't think we're having a problem with that. Want to get some highlights up here in the hair. You got to really be careful up here because I have a tendency to overdo the hair sometimes on these horses. I really don't want to do that on this one. But yeah, that's kind of cool. This is all fine in the shadows. Let me see if I can get some of those eyelashes in here. The problem is this isn't a very fine uh, gel pen marker. So I have to be careful when I'm doing like fine line areas. Kind of smooth some of that. And that's why I have my black pen over here as well. So like if I overdo something, I can kind of come back and fix it. Like I feel like underneath this eye, it should have more of a straight line definition. So I'm going to come back with this black, kind of fix some of that up. And I think that looks cool. Makes his eye look watery almost and like a little bit more realistic. And a little bit of an area through here that's brighter, but not so bright that I feel like I need to use that pen. And kind of horses' eyes are so dark. There's not really any kind of whites to them so much that you would see. I honestly, I've never seen a horse that has like a white eye at all. So I'm just going to assume they're all black. I'm not going to go poking around in a horse's eye to find out. See now, cool channel name. That's where I feel like I need to really evolve as an artist. I didn't go to art school, so I'm not particularly sure of all the different art styles out there and what they're called. So I know what you're talking about when you say Art Deco and so forth, but to figure out what's Art Deco and what's not, that's where I might struggle. That's something I need to like actually spend some time just learning the history of art styles and stuff like that so that I can properly call something what it is. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin trying to figure out what style this is, even though I myself am doing it. Like So the other thing is like sometimes I'll use that highlight and then I'll feel like, well, that's a little bit stark and I don't really like it. So I want to blend it in a little bit. And then I'll come back with like the colored pencil and just kind of like put in some tone around it just to just to kind of blend that really bright area. Like you can barely even see it now because I've kind of because I don't want it to look like it was drawn with pen. Um, so I'll kind of like just blend some of that pen in. And I think that looks really good, especially on this cat picture. So like I do have like the gel pen highlight around it, but then I have colored pencil beneath it to kind of like blend that into the surroundings. So all of these tools work together, I think, to create a really cool effect. It's one that I'm happy with. I think might actually uh, put these out there maybe on Etsy or something like that. See if people are interested in getting pictures done in this style. Because like it's the only style. Like I work in so many different styles, and I plan to continue doing that. Just explore, all the different ways you can create pictures and stuff. But I feel like I draw pretty consistently in this style to where I feel comfortable putting it out there to where, I'll do people's pet portraits or something like that. So that's probably something I'll do. If not this year, I'll do it maybe next year or something like that. But in the meantime, that's one of the things I worry about, as somebody who's still new to drawing. Like I still feel like I'm a little experimental in what I do, and I don't feel like I have a consistent art style because like I'll draw this and then I'll come back and paint something tomorrow and they won't look any bit alike. So if I went off and told somebody like, yeah, I'm gonna draw a picture of your dog or whatever, and it's like, well, what style am I actually doing it in? I don't have a consistent style. So I'm working on that. And I feel like this is something that I can do maybe consistently because like most of my pictures that I've done in this style kind of look alike. So the person at least knows what to expect, whether they like it or not. They at least know what it's going to look like, which I think is important if you turn around and actually like offer that as a service. Like you're going to draw somebody's pet or whatever, you should probably have a consistent style. 1950s American appliances were Art Deco. Yeah, I think I've got a pretty good handle on Art Deco just because I like that time period, um, in which it came out. Some of the other ones, like I can't even think of any examples. Like for example, Van Gogh. Like, was Van Gogh impressionist or not? I don't know. You know, if you ask me, it seems like it's impressionist, but I'm not an art scholar. Um, I appreciate art same as anybody else, but is that technically impressionist? I don't know. I really don't. I would like to know. I do in my spare time. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos, same as you guys. Some of the YouTube videos I watch are Google the lobby. Okay, I will. Um, some of the shows that I like watching on YouTube are tutorials. Like I want to progress, but I also I like watching. There's a great channel. If you guys care or remind me to, I'll link to it. But it's Great Art Explained. That is a great channel for like just looking at famous pieces of art, like I don't know, like the Mona Lisa, for example, and giving the history behind it, kind of like how it came about and stuff. One of my favorite art pieces is like The Wanderer, which is like this picture of this guy looking over like these mountains where there's like all this fog and everything. It's a picture that really resonates with me because I do like to hike, I like to explore and stuff. But then I found out yeah, that picture was done by like a Nazi, I think, or at least somebody who has like Nazi ties. And then it's like, do I really want to say that's my favorite picture anymore? I don't know. I like the picture, but I don't like the Nazis, so I don't know if I feel comfortable saying that's a favorite piece of mine anymore. And I just like hearing the stories behind some of these famous pieces of art. So that's a great channel for that. there's probably a number of ones out there like that, but yeah, it talks about the different styles of art, and it's something I'm still exploring. So I don't feel comfortable really speaking on it with like any kind of authority or whatever. But I'm learning. You know, give me a while. Come back, subscribe to my channel, and come back in 2 3 years and stuff. I'll be an expert on all this stuff. Trust me. All I can say is that by subscribing to the channel, hanging out with me, you get the opportunity to grow with me. There we go. An Airstream trailer is like a giant version of an Art Deco toaster. That is true. See, I feel like you guys know more about the history of art than I do, which is awesome. Because I learn from you guys. I really do. Some of the things you guys talk about in here are things that are not on my radar, things I haven't considered and stuff. I feel like it's a symbiotic conversation that we have in here. I learn from you guys. Hopefully, you guys pick up something from what I do. If not, at least you enjoy watching. Some of you guys are regulars. You show up pretty often, so hopefully you get something out of this, other than me drinking my paint water, um, which I have done. Um, but yeah, I learned like you guys. You guys have such an interesting, um, like variety of things that you guys are into. I learn things from you guys all the time. All right, guys, I think that this is about done. I can hear my dogs waking up and getting restless and stuff like that, so it's about that time. I do have like a 2 hour kind of hard stop tonight because I'm supposed to go do like a watch party with some friends. We're watching Mr. Robot, if you guys are interested in that kind of thing. Um, I never actually got around to seeing it, which is weird because it's like it is the kind of show that I enjoy. Um, but anyway, we're doing a watch party where we're watching like all the episodes like from the beginning and so on. So I've got to bail so that I can go and participate in that. But I think this was a good one. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys did too. I think the picture turned out okay. It's probably not the best horse. Well, I don't know. I've done a lot of horse pictures, so I'm gonna have to go back and look at my other horse pictures and kind of judge on whether or not how this ranks with those. But I like it. I think it's a good representation of the style of like focusing on light instead of shadows. Um, I'll get around to adding a cigarette to him. He does look like he should be smoking a cigarette. Um, there might be some touch ups that I need to do in here, like little areas. Usually, what I do is I draw pictures at night, and then the next morning I take a look at them by daylight after I've sobered up because I am drinking while I'm doing this. Um, and I take a look at it and I'm like, am I happy with it? Is there something I can adjust? I don't know. So I might tinker with this a little bit later on, but I think it's a good start. It's good enough for the thumbnail shot. So that's good enough for me. I gotta watch like when I am drinking, spitting on my picture. I got like that's why you guys watch this show to make me to to watch me like drunken idiot spitting on my own picture. Yeah, I like that. I think that looks cool. All right, there might be some highlights and stuff like that I can do to this later. The problem is there's not like a lot of details to a horse's eye, and I really like working on details in the eye. It's fine. There was this little bit that came up here. I really like the expression on this horse's face, so let me spend 2 minutes really hammering that home. So on this horse, the eyebrow kind of not eyebrow, but the structure of the eye kind of comes up and around. Let me get that in there. Let's see. I'm gonna highlight there. That looks good. Yeah, he's got kind of an expression now. I like that. Little details. Uh, See, that's the problem when you smear. Like, I got a little bit more over there than I wanted to, so now I got to figure out what to do with that. I'm gonna blend that in over here. Yeah, I think that that's a good solution to that. All right. So, yeah, I'm gonna call this done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Looks great. Yeah, have a good one, kid. It needs to be the reflection of a lady horse in the eye. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it'd be kind of cool. Like that's the drawback to traditional art is I can't just zoom in on the eye and like add some like cool detail in there and stuff. I wish I could. Um, let's see. Yeah. I mean, I could still do it. I could draw like a little tiny horse in the eye, but I don't know. That's for another time. I think I'm done for this evening. Hopefully you guys had a good time. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Um, I think it's one of my better horses, so I'm happy with it. But yeah, if dope horse, I like it. It's good. You could sell it. Yeah, maybe. Um, but yeah, all right, cool. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm glad you guys like this. Let's see, go back to this. Yeah. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. You know, fall's in full bloom. Got the holidays coming up and stuff. A lot of things to be excited about. If you are a fan of the MCU like I am, and you haven't seen Loki, the season 2 that's on Disney Plus, I highly recommend it. It's way better than the first season, and then the first the 2 seasons together. I'm not sure if they're going to make a third, because it kind of tells the full story. But the first season and the second season kind of work together to tell this really great story, which has a great ending. The last 2 episodes of it are like some of the best MCU ever. Highly recommend it. Go and watch it if you haven't. And then, you know, if you're a casual fan of the MCU, you just want to watch some people, you know, having, you know, like doing space battles or whatever, go watch the Marvels. I liked it. I get some of the criticism, but I think they're overblown. So go watch the Marvels. Beyond that, do whatever you do. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday with some other thing. I think I'll probably move beyond the white pencil on black paper thing, just because I feel like I've done 3 of them, and usually I work in threes. So I'll probably move on to something else and maybe come back to it later. But in the meantime, hope you guys have a great weekend. Stay cool. I'll see you Tuesday. Bye.